My son stood in the doorway, frozen. His backpack slipped from his shoulder, thudding softly against the hardwood floor. His eyes, wide, glassy, silent, met mine for just a moment before shifting to the man next to me. The man who wasn't his father. The man who wasn't supposed to be here. I didn't cover myself. I didn't scream or scramble. I just stood there, half naked, emotionally exposed, watching the boy I raised crumble in the silence of betrayal. And the worst part, I allowed it. Because deep down, I knew it had to happen. This isn't a story about lust. It's about years of silence, of dying inside while smiling on the outside, of loneliness under a shared roof, of motherhood, womanhood, and a moment that cracked open everything we tried to ignore. You want the truth? I'll give it to you raw. Chapter 1. The house was never quiet, but we stopped speaking. We were the picture-perfect family. At least, that's what everyone saw. My husband, Peter, was a respected businessman, tall, stoic, with a handshake that could end a negotiation. I was the elegant wife, disciplined, thoughtful, educated. I volunteered, hosted, cooked, smiled. We had a son, Noah. Bright, kind, the kind of boy who asks his teacher how her day was. But inside our home, it was cold. Peter and I stopped touching each other 3 years before that day. No fights, no screaming matches, just the slow suffocation of routine and resentment. We didn't hate each other. We just forgot how to love. Somewhere between parent-teacher meetings, business trips, and dinner reservations, we lost the reason we started all of it in the first place. He slept on the right side of the bed. I slept on the left. And there was always a chasm in between. One night, Peter came home late. I asked if he'd eaten. He nodded. That was it. That was our marriage. Chapter 2. The man at the art studio. I met Julian during a community art workshop I joined on a whim. He was a visiting instructor. Charcoal sketches, deep voice, eyes that looked right through the facade. He wasn't my type. That's what I told myself. But he noticed things. He noticed how I touched my wrist when I was nervous. How I laughed with my mouth but not my eyes. How I always stayed late to clean up brushes no one used. He asked questions no one dared to ask. And more dangerously, he listened. We never planned anything. It started with coffee after class, then lunch. Then one afternoon, when the studio closed early, he walked me to my car. It was raining, and when I turned to say goodbye, his lips brushed mine. I pulled away, but I didn't stop him the next time. Chapter 3. The bedroom wasn't sacred anymore. We met once a week. Never hotels, never risky places. Just my home, during the small sliver of time before Noah got back from school and while Peter was at work. Every time Julian touched me, I felt like I was waking up from a deep sleep I hadn't known I was in. I told myself I deserved this, that I was human, that I had needs, that Peter had long abandoned me emotionally, so my body was no longer his to neglect. But the truth? I was afraid of who I was becoming. One afternoon, I asked Julian, "Do you think I'm a bad person?" He looked at me, quiet, measured. "No," he said. "I think you're a person who was forgotten for too long." And for the first time in years, I cried, in someone's arms. Chapter 4. The moment the door opened. It was a Wednesday. Julian was late, which was unusual. I had just finished making tea when I heard his car in the driveway. Peter was at a conference. Noah was at school, or so I thought. We were in the bedroom. It wasn't planned. There was urgency that day, like we both felt time slipping. He kissed me differently, almost like it was goodbye. And then the door opened. At first, I thought it was the wind. Then I heard the footsteps. Then I saw him. Noah, my son. His eyes were wide, full of shock, disgust, betrayal, confusion, all crashing together into silence. I wanted to speak, to explain. But what do you say to a 16-year-old boy who just caught his mother in bed with someone who isn't his father? He ran, and I didn't chase, because maybe he needed to see, maybe he needed to know that the house he grew up in was not what it seemed, that the silence he had felt for years wasn't just in his head. Chapter 5, The Fallout. Peter found out that same night. Noah told him everything. There were no screams, just a quiet, almost surgical dismantling of our lives. Peter asked if it was true. I said yes. He nodded once and walked out of the room. We didn't sleep under the same roof again after that. Noah didn't speak to me for weeks. He moved in with his father. I'd text him, call, leave voicemails. Nothing. I tried writing him a letter. I wrote 10 drafts. In one, I blamed Peter. In another, I blamed myself. The one I sent, I just told the truth, that I was lonely, that I wasn't proud of what I did, that I was still his mother, and I would wait for him, no matter how long it took. Chapter 6, The Return. 6 months passed. I was at the grocery store when I saw him. He was taller, leaner, and for a moment, I wasn't sure if he'd acknowledge me, but he did. He walked up, awkward and slow, and he said, "Hi." That was all, but it was a start. Over the next few months, we rebuilt. Slowly, carefully. He had questions. Real ones. Hard ones. "Did you ever love Dad?" "Yes." "Then why did you do it?" "Because I stopped loving myself." Silence. Then he said, "I think I understand." And somehow, that mattered more than forgiveness. Chapter 7, The Woman in the Mirror. Julian left, quietly. We didn't end in chaos, just drifted. I think he knew his role in my life was temporary, a wake-up call, a catalyst, not a destination. Peter and I finalized the divorce with civility. There was no war, just a quiet agreement that our time had run its course. And me? I started therapy. For the first time in my life, I stopped trying to be what everyone else needed and started trying to figure out who I was, under the wife, under the mother, under the perfection. Some nights I still cry, not out of regret, but because I wish I had woken up sooner, that I had asked for help before I self-destructed. But there's something powerful in surviving your own choices. I lost everything I thought defined me, and found the raw, unfiltered woman underneath it all. Outrow, you think this story is about infidelity? It's not. It's about silence. About what happens when we pretend everything is fine just to maintain an illusion. It's about a woman who cracked under the weight of her own invisibility, and a boy who saw his mother not as a saint, but as a human. Some truths will destroy what you thought was sacred, but maybe, just maybe, they'll set you free. If this story struck a chord with you, share it. Comment your thoughts. Subscribe for more truth, more pain, more healing. Because on this channel, we don't run from the hard stories. We confront them together.